Alright, so we have a new M. Night Shyamalan movie called Knock at the Cabin, and the plot for it is pretty much this. While vacationing, a girl and her parents are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avert the apocalypse. Alright, let's get into some of the good things about this movie, and the first thing I'm going to say, just to get it out of the way, is that Dave Bautista is great. I've always knew that Dave Bautista was a great actor ever since I saw him in Blade Runner 2049, but now it feels like the general audiences are starting to see that as well. And once again, although he is a massive standout in this movie, he never takes away from Ben Aldridge and Jonathan Groff's characters in this movie, and the daughter for this movie as well, and they're all great as well. And everyone else in this movie is also great, and for a movie like this that is very emotionally charged, if the performances aren't great, it's going to be very hard for the audience to buy into this movie. Another thing that I liked about this movie is that it doesn't make anyone in this movie a villain or a bad person. You understand the parents' perspective because they don't want to sacrifice anyone for the world, and also this couple in this movie is an LGBTQ couple, and we actually do get certain moments where they're not treated well, which also, affects their decision on trying to save the world because of how the outside world views their relationship. And on the other side of that, these four horsemen characters that we have in this movie, prior to these visions that they were getting, they were just regular people, just like the couple in this movie and the child. But now they have no choice but to convince these people to sacrifice one of their loved ones. Another thing that I liked about this movie is the score, and once again, this score is not anything like John Williams and Indiana Jones, but I thought the score did a very good job of making the tense moments even more tense, and even the more calmer, wholesome moments even more wholesome. Another thing that I liked about this movie is the humor, and once again, the humor is not really in this movie, but when it is in this movie, I think that they really nailed it, and it even got a little bit of a chuckle from me and the other audience members in the crowd. The last thing I'm going to say before I get into my criticisms is that I like the tone for the overall movie. Like I said, there was a really good humor in the first 20 to 40 minutes of this movie, but when things get really serious, there is not a single joke cracked, and I really like that because some movies decide that something serious is happening and they just decide to add in a joke just to relieve the situation. But this movie knows that what they're dealing with is very serious, and they want to make sure that the audience knows that as well. Alright, let's get into some of my criticisms for this movie, and the first thing I'm going to say is that the pacing in the second act of this movie was very slow, and I mean painfully slow. I know that this movie is only 1 hour and 40 minutes, but sometimes, especially in that second act of the movie, it felt like the movie was going to go on to 2 hours and 40 minutes. Another problem that I had in this movie was the child actor, and once again, her performance isn't anything that's so bad that it's going to cause outrages on Twitter, but I do think that the performance in this movie was sometimes just a bit questionable. The last thing I'm going to say before I give my score for this movie is that I wish we could have gotten a good reason, aside from the apocalypse, that these three characters specifically have to sacrifice one another. Because once again, I understand that they have to sacrifice one of their family members for the apocalypse to stop, but we don't get a reason on why these three people specifically, compared to the other billions of people in this world, why do they have to be the one that have to do it? And you could say the same thing for the four horsemen characters. Once again, we get a pretty good background on each of the characters, but we don't get a reason on why these four specific people have to be the ones to go to the cabin and knock at the door and tell these people this information. And why they have to be the ones that, if they say no, they have to get sacrificed. And overall, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give Knock at the Cabin a 7.5 out of 10. Have you guys seen this movie? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you not like it at all? Let me know in the comments. And those are my thoughts on that.